Hello, and welcome to another episode of the M42 Adventures podcast. I am your host, Rick Trimmer, and we're going to continue with our Ask Me Anything questions. I got another set of questions here, and we got a good response to that. A lot of people responded and said that they enjoyed it, and so we're going to do another one. Probably do that every few weeks, something like that. We're just kind of learning here, but so far, so good, the reception. So we're going to continue on that. And that's what this episode will be about. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Hope you get some value out of this, and we'll jump right into it. As I told you before, I do not know what these questions are. Ricky just handed them over to me, and so we're gonna read them together, and I'll answer them honestly and to the best of my ability. So here we go. Okay, question number one: how do you approach decision making, especially when faced with tough decisions? How do I approach decision making? So the number one way that I've always approached big decision making is I make a pros and cons list. I know it might sound cliche or whatever, but it has been the best way for me to make a good decision. I was actually engaged when I was 19 years old to my high school sweetheart, and she had the dress bought, the invitations were sent out. It was like official. It was happening. Date was set, and I just was nervous, having second thoughts, all those things, young, and I talked to my dad and I says, "Hey dad, you know, how do I make a good decision here? Am I making the right decision?" And that's when he gave me that advice of, "Hey, make a pros and cons list of, if this is the right decision." And I did. And the cons far outweighed the pros. She was a great girl, probably could have made it work, all those types of things, but the cons were that I was young, I didn't know who I was yet, I was broke, just all those things that, first time marriages at that age would face. And I called it off. One of the hardest things I've ever done. I called her up and said, "Hey, I don't think we're making the right decision. I don't want to break up, but I don't want to get married." And she didn't go for that. So it ended up being a blessing though. I look back and now I'm married to Gina. I made a pros and cons list with her, and the pros outweighed the cons. And so it's been a great thing. I was talking to my buddy last night, and he was talking about how marriage is so difficult, and he's single. He's been single his entire life. He's 44 years old, and how he loves the single life, and seeing all these people go through divorce and problems. And I told him, I wouldn't trade being married for being single for $1 million, is what I said to him. And I wouldn't. The depth and the joy and the love that I get from being married and with my kids, is worth all the monetary things that I have, times 1,000. And I know, and he says, "Well, I think," he says, "Gina's a gem. You lucked out," which I did. But he says, "I also think you made a very thought out decision when you married her." And I did. I was very critical of her and my circumstances. And I mean, my pros and cons list was a page long. And, I really thought about what this would look like long term, not just today. She's hot, all those types of things. She's nice. It's like, how will she be as a mother? How do we stand on, religious aspects? Just so many variables that I thought long term about, that I was confident that she was what I wanted. And so that's how I've done most of my decision making. The other thing too is I go with my gut. When it comes down to, and the pros and cons list is tied and I just cannot make a decision, I go with my gut. And thankfully my gut has been right 95% of the time. I think if you really, when I do most of my best thinking when it's nighttime, middle of the night, quiet, nobody else is around to influence me. I think a lot of people make decisions in life based on what they would do or what they want them to, what they think you should do. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think that's how, I don't want to say most, but I think that's how a lot of people make decisions in life is that, I know I did in the beginning. A lot of decisions I made were what I thought my parents would want me to do, or my grandparents. And this is your life. This is your life. At the end of the day, you got to look yourself in the mirror you're the one stuck with that girl or in that job, and you need to make sure you're making decisions that are best for you and your immediate circle. So, uh, one of my favorite posts that I ever saw was a guy who was, he's in there's a line of people with sticks and just a little cartoon, and they're handing him a stick, and he takes the stick and he's putting the sticks around him, and the sticks are other people's, uh, you know, not expectations, but what they think how you should live their life, how you should live your life. And at the end, he's in a cage. He built a cage around himself by their expectations. And that has always been very powerful to me. I think a lot of people do that where we take other people's advice, pressures, peer pressures, and we slowly build us into a cage that, we want out of. And so, build your life with your decisions, what you want. Really sit down and think about where you want to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, who you want to marry, what kind of dad, mother you want to be. Those are huge, huge decisions, and you should not take them lightly. Make a pros and cons list and just really meditate on it and think about it and try to make that right decision. So that's how I do it. Okay. Number 2, when you think of adventure in your life, what has been the top 3 experiences you've been able to do? Okay. So for those just tuning in, you probably don't know this if you haven't listened to the first episodes, but me and my family went traveling for the last 8 years now. And we've had a lot of experiences. We've done a lot of stuff. People ask us this a lot because of that. They want to know what's our favorite place? What's the funnest thing we've ever done? Number 1 favorite experience is traveling long term. That was a huge decision. So scary, so intimidating. I actually had a buddy come up to me at the gym. Trevor came up to me at the gym a few days ago and says, "Man, I saw you walking up the stairs. I haven't seen you in town. You're never in town. And I had to come grab you and ask you, I want to go on a honeymoon." He's getting married. And he says, "I want to go on a honeymoon, but I want to leave the country and I've never done it. How do you do it? It's just so intimidating." I says, "It is, man. It is." But I says, I find mentors, people who have done it. And I gave him 2 or 3 places I would go, told him I'm happy to help him book them, plan them. It's very easy for me to do now since I've been doing it for 8 years. I could do it in a few hours. Talked about his budget, talked about, what he wanted to experience. He wants to go to somewhere warm with a beach. And so, I know what it's like to be staring at that for your first time. When I first left, we flew to France, one-way ticket, never had left the country. Family of 4, 2 little kids, didn't speak the language, didn't know how to get around. And we left, and we were gone on that stint for about a year and a half, straight. And it was very scary. So that was a wild adventure. That was my top experience, was first getting out into the long-term traveling world. And just all those, I kind of attribute it to starting a new business. When you first start a new business, it's exciting, it's scary, it's a highs and lows. Now to go travel is not near as big of a deal for me. We head to Africa with M42 Adventures in 10 days with 21 people. Never been to Africa, never gone there before in my life. Not scared at all. Taking my pregnant wife and my 3 kids, 12, 9, and 3, doesn't even faze me at all. It'll all be good. We'll get through it. It's just nothing. It's just, I'm excited to go to Africa and experience it. And the travel part and the planning and all that just is so much easier and less stressful. So that has been my top experience. To narrow it down, deep sea fishing in Costa Rica with my dad every year with a little villager that's got a little tiny boat. We go 2.5 hours out into the ocean. It's really raw and exposed, and it's wonderful. I love that kind of stuff. It really feels like you're on an adventure. We're not in a big yacht with air conditioning. He makes a little sandwich for us, and it's a really cool. That's kind of my style, is just wild, and so that's a fun one. And then probably Hawaii. I really enjoy Hawaii. Bow hunting in Hawaii. I go every year for 2 or 3 weeks with friends and family. We're starting obviously to do experiences with M42 next year. So if you want to come do that with us, but that's a blast. It's just a great time. Beautiful people, beautiful culture, beautiful scenery with a sport and activity that I love. And I get to, hopefully procure meat for my family. And that's a really, really fun one. So that'd be my top three. Okay, let's see. Uh, okay, advice on a partnership in business. So this is from my buddy in Canada, Jarrett. He actually called and asked me this the other day, and I told him I'd address it on here. But he's looking at starting a business with a friend, a couple friends, people, actually not even friends. Let me take that back. He's starting a business with some people that he just knows, acquaintances. And he says, how do you start a partnership? How do you get into a partnership? And it's tricky. I talked about this a little bit, I think, on another podcast. Uh, and you got to be very smart about a partnership. I tell people it's like getting into a marriage, maybe even worse. Not worse, not that marriage is bad, but a little bit more intricate than a marriage because it's finances. You're with them every day working on problems in business, and it can be very stressful. So, advice on a partnership, I would say first and foremost is, do you trust them? Are these people that you know and trust? If it's not, see if you can vet them. And if you can't, I like to put into something into place where maybe it's a work in progress. So a couple things I've done with people that I wasn't real sure of is I wrote my agreement to where it was, I'm going to set this 10% aside in business for you for a year or 2 years down the road if you accomplish these things, if you don't have a drug habit or an alcohol habit. Let me get to know you, basically. I don't want to jump right into bed with you. Let's date first. And since we want to start this business now, let's put our partnership on hold for 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and make sure that this is going to work. And I'll set these shares aside. And if you do all these things, then at that time it will trigger and you get them. And so that's a big one if you don't have the trust. Second is make sure you need them. Make sure that it's a vital person. A lot of people go into business because they want them, or just they maybe lazy. I don't know. They just want somebody else to do the work or something like that. Make sure you need them. It's a lot easier to do a business without a partner that you don't need than to do. If you get the wrong partner and you're stuck with them, it's just a nightmare. I've had that. I've had that where I've had partners that just aren't pulling their weight. They couldn't come up with the money they were going to come up with, all these different things. And that's a huge issue. So make sure that they're vital to giving them ownership. If they're not, just hire them as an employee. If you just need some of their skill sets, whatever, then just either hire them as a consultant, hire them as an employee. Don't give them ownership in your business. That should be for people that you want around you, that you trust, that are going to be there in the long haul. The partners that I have now, I've been partners with most of them for a decade or more. I know who they are. I know what they do. I know their work ethic. I trust them, and it's a no-brainer. So that's a huge one. Partnerships can be great though. It can be a great thing. I've done businesses where I've done it on my own and it's stressful. You have nobody to go to. You have nobody to, bounce ideas off of, nobody to hang out with. I mean, it can just get lonely. So partnerships can be great if you find the right people. I love my partnerships now. They're some of my best friends, and I love it. It's what makes my life fuller, not even just in the business aspect, but just the friendships. So it can be a great thing, but be very cautious. Go into it. If it's starting out rocky, it's just probably going to get rockier. Again, pros and cons list. We'll go back to that one, and follow your gut. Make sure that you make a good decision on that one. Hopefully I answered that one okay for you, Jarrett. Okay. How do you continue to learn and grow professionally and personally when you're already at a great place? Well, first of all, I am in a good place. I love my life. I don't have to work. I have a good thing going, but at the same time, I have so far to grow. I'm never going to stop growing. I still, me and my wife still fight. I still need to lose 10 to 20 pounds of weight. There's always ways to improve. So by no means am I perfect, and to think that I am or that I don't need to grow is crazy. I hear, one of the things that I learned back in the day was, I don't know what the statistic is, right? 75% of statistics are made up. My buddy said that one to me in Alaska the other day. But a big portion of people stop educating themselves after high school or college. They don't read books anymore. They don't listen to podcasts. They just stop. And that to me is crazy. To think that you know everything after you graduate is insane. I'm not the same person at all at 2025 than I am now. 20 years later, I'm a completely different person. I've read thousands of books. I've listened to podcasts. I've fought with my wife. I've yelled at my kids. I've gained weight, lost weight, just all the things that have changed me and made me who I am. It's unbelievable how much I've grown, I feel like, in business. I used to get very upset with employees and micromanage. I don't do that near as much anymore. I'm way different of a boss. I don't, me and my wife, we get along so much better than we did 10 years ago, because you start learning what to fight about and what not to fight about, and, how your relationship works. So to think that you don't need to grow is crazy. So always continue to grow, learn, read books, and then apply it. I think that's the other big thing that a lot of people don't do is they read the book and, you go read a book on how to lose weight. You still got to go to the gym or eat better. You'd think common sense, but a lot of people tell me all the time, I'm reading books and I'm going to seminars and I'm listening to podcasts. And I'm like, well, you're still broke, or you're still, a bad dad, or, whatever it is. And it's like, you have to implement those things that you're learning. Get a mentor. How do you continue to learn and grow is the question. Read books, listen to podcasts, grow your circle of people. You're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. That's a huge one for me. That's probably been the biggest way that I've grown over the last 3 or 4 years, is not only expanding my circle. I go to all these events now, mine, others. I was just in Alaska with 8 other people. 6 of them I didn't know. Made a couple great friendships from that. Was just in Hawaii with a group of people. Made some great friendships with new people. Made some great friendships from that. This podcast, I'm reaching out to people all the time. Can I interview you? Can I talk to you? I've got 6 scheduled for the next 2 weeks that I'm so excited about. And then I weed them down. I go to a place and I meet 20 people. They're not all 20 going to be my people. Maybe 1, maybe 2. So a revolving door, people coming in, people going out. They say that's what you should have for a successful business, is a revolving door. I see a lot of businesses that hire 10 people. They need 10 people. They hire 10 and then they fight to keep those 10. Chances are, statistically, those 10 are not all going to be great employees. 1 or 2 probably are. You need to get rid of the other 8 and bring in another 10, and get rid of the 8 and bring in another 10. And after you hire 100, you'll keep 10 that are awesome employees. Same with dating. Chances are the first girl you date isn't going to be the one. Date. I tell my kids, hopefully when they get a little bit older, Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors. I think I get that wrong. Whatever. They have a lot of flavors. Try them all. Taste them all. See what you think is the best one, because you may never know that you love Rocky Road until you try it. And so that's how I weed out people and grow my circle. And then the sum of the 5 people you're with, I always use the analogy of some of my friends I go to a barbecue with, and we talk about dirt bikes and, snowboarding, which I love that. I'm passionate about those things. But then I go hang out with these other 5 people and we talk about stocks and we talk about rental properties and we talk about the economy. Those are completely different trajectories of life. If I only hung out with the guys talking about snowboarding, I'd probably be, snowboarding more. And if I talk about people who are buying rental properties, I'm probably going to buy more rental properties. Which do you want? What one is going to take you where you want to go? And then surround yourself with those people more often than not. Obviously, you can still have the friends that talk about, fishing or snowboarding. Those are great, beautiful people, and I love those conversations. But if you are trying to level up in life in property management or stocks or marriage. Find if your marriage is rough, find some people that have a good marriage and talk to them and spend time with them and see what they're doing. Are they having date night? Do they buy their wife flowers once a month? It's pretty common sense, but we don't do it. And you have to put yourself out there. That's the number one thing too, as well as put yourself out there. Get into communities, get into groups, go on trips, whatever. You can go to church, go to, sign up for the gym. I mean, and talk to people and open yourself up. And that's a huge way to learn and grow. Okay. What advice would you give a couple as your number one marriage and parenting tip? Again, I'm not perfect at this by any means. I've been married 18 years, almost a couple more months, 18 years. We have a good marriage. We do. All aspects of it are pretty good. We fight, we have our problems, I guarantee you. But more often than not, I told my buddy actually last night, I says, 90% of the time I'm happy. And that's the truth. And so I think the way, so let's answer this two ways. Marriage, number one marriage advice. Again, I'm not, qualified probably to give this, but I do have a good marriage. So I'm going to tell you what makes my marriage good and why I think we're successful so far. We have date night. It doesn't have to be a bunch of money spent watching Netflix. The other day I got an Uber. We Ubered over to a restaurant and had dinner. Just something different, I could have drove us there. We're in a small town. I know most people in big cities Uber everywhere, but we do not Uber where I'm from. It's a tiny town. But she liked that. I had a car pull up. We jumped in, we rode in the back, we laughed, we giggled, and it was $15 or something. I don't even know, nothing, round trip. But it was something different that I thought of and I planned. And that's what they want to see, is somebody who is thinking of them, and vice versa. Hey guys, I wanted to just step away from the episode here real quick and update you on a few things we have going on here at M42 Adventures. So as you know, we have the Africa experience. It is sold out. We sold 21 of 24 spots. So not a complete sellout, but a great start for our first ever experience out of the country. I leave for that in 10 days with my wife and 3 kids. So I cannot wait. I'm a headliner for one of the weeks there. Ryan Mickler will be going the week before me as the headliner for that week. So we are very excited about that. If you want to go to Africa, we are going to be announcing 2025 dates here in the next couple weeks, something like that. So stay tuned, watch our website, watch our social media, sign up for our newsletter if you want to jump in on that. It's going to be life-changing, and we're very excited. We're taking a videographer with us. We're going to have some good footage from that. Just got back from Alaska. I'm wearing my hat here. If you're watching me on YouTube, got my Alaska edition hat. Absolute wonderful time. 8 people up there, had a great time. And we'll be announcing that as well, probably in 6 weeks or something like that for our Alaska experience. Also, a community. We're building a community right now. It's going to be called Genesis, and it's going to be launching here in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be a lot of resources in there, a lot of things to level up in life in multiple facets. And I cannot wait for that. So stay tuned for that. That is what I had. So next year we're going to be having we're going to be starting with 4 new experiences: Hawaii, Africa, Costa Rica, and the New Harmony retreats. So that's what we're going to be launching first. So stay tuned, and we'd love for you to come out to any of these experiences and meet us, spend time with us, and level up in all things outdoors. Can't wait for it. So thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. Please like, follow, share on all platforms, and let's get back to this episode. Thanks. And vice versa. My wife has a women's community called Revitalized Womanhood. So shout out to her. It's a mirror of Order of Man. They started that together, and it's for the women aspect of that. And that's helped our marriage a ton. I tell people all the time, get your wives involved in this, have them listen to the podcast. My wife never used to read books about anything. I would I've been reading books for 20 years about self-help and business and fitness and all these things and trying to level up. And she just didn't want to. She just wanted to watch not necessarily soap operas, but whatever the equivalent of that is now. And she started this community, and she started seeing the value in trying to level up in these different ways. And now she's always asking me, what's a new book I can read? And I gave her one yesterday that was called, let's see, I just sent it to her. I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's a really good one. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. The Art of Negotiation, which is a huge book. If you don't know how to negotiate, I can go off on tangents all day long. But knowing how to negotiate in life is huge for your pay, you know, so many aspects of where you need to negotiate. And I told her to read it, and she's like, awesome, I love that. And so she's trying to be a better mother. She's trying to be a better wife. She's trying to be a better mentor to these women that she's coaching. And that's been a huge blessing on our marriage. Just her trying and thinking, you know, uh, it's just been beautiful. It's been great. She's learning what men need and what men want and what men desire. And then she applies it, and it's great, you know, and so vice versa. What's her love language? What does she want? What does she need? And I try to apply it. And that's been huge for us. I think, the reason I was telling her this a couple of years ago, but I think the number one reason that marriages fail, this is just my opinion. Obviously, there's finances and, sex and all the things that we fight about, that are pretty standard. But I think the fundamental thing for me that I had kind of an aha moment, we were in France and we just got in a huge fight. We were driving down the road. Long-term travel's tough to fight because you're stuck together and you can't run to your parents' house or your friends or anything. There's an 8-hour time difference. So you're stuck with them. And we got in this big fight. We're driving down the road and it uh, elevated so quickly. So it was, which we understand that stuff happens. But what the kind of epiphany for me was when we first started fighting, when we were dating, and then the first couple years of marriage, say you leave the dishes out. Well, that fight goes from a 0 to like a 2 or a 3 during that course of that fight, right? So say 0's just a disagreement and 10, you're screaming at each other and throwing shit. Well, the next time you fight about that, it turns from a 2 to a 4. And then the next time you fight about that, it's 4 to a 7. So on this particular fight, we'd been married 12 years, 13 years or something like that. And we got in a fight. And I immediately said, I started, going to how I fight. And she says, oh, I know what you're going to say. You're going to do this. I don't care. Empty promises. And I get mad at her because I'm like, well, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say this. And our fight that used to go from a 0 to a 2 went from an 8 to a 10 in the same amount of time. And so I told her, I says, you know what? That was very interesting to me. I think that what happens, the way marriages start blowing up and failing is pretty soon all your fights go from 8 to 10s, 8s to 12s, whatever they may be. And because you know what they're going to say, you know what they're going to think before they say it. And so your fights are already so elevated. And I told her, I says, I think the way for a healthy marriage is to be able to reset, which I haven't totally been able to do. Obviously, it's impossible. I don't even know if it's possible to reset yourself back to when you were dating. But if you're married 20 years and you could snap your fingers and go back to how it was in the beginning, the first year or two, kind of like I was saying on travel, when you're first married, it's new, you're figuring it out. You just you don't explode on them. You don't have these huge fights. You might have a couple, which is fine, but I'm just saying it's not as often and as quickly. And so I told her we need to try to bring that back. And we have. It's been very healthy for us to understand that and understand, instead of her saying, I know what you're going to say, or, you've told me this for 10 years. We're trying to let each other start out at a 0 or 1 and not let it get up to the 7s, 8s, and 9s. And we're doing much better at that. So that's a huge deal. Parenting tip, good luck. I don't know that, spending time with them is my number one thing. I think a lot of people are in the room, but they're not engaged. I think a lot of people go home from work, sit on the couch, their kids are in the room, and they are saying, I'm with my kids, and you're not. You're on your phone, you're watching TV, which I know we all need I'm not here to judge anyone. I do the same thing, but I try to force myself to get off the couch and go jump on the tramp. I have young kids. I'm 44 years old. My wife is pregnant. And I tell my wife all the time, we cannot do a disservice to these kids by getting old and lazy. We got to stay fit. We got to stay active. I took my kids to karate. Again, we've been traveling long term for 7 years. We're back home for a little bit. And we just put our kid in football, soccer for the first time ever. Just completed their first, not full year, but first half of year of school. So we're new to this as far as that normal, quote unquote, parenting. We've had our kids with us. I've been with my kids for 365 days, 24/7 for years, literally years. We're in a car together, we're traveling together. And so, that's that's my parenting tip is I try to spend as much time with them and be present. I know people are working. I did all that stuff back in the day, so I'm not trying to judge you if you got to go to work and pay the bills and you get home at 5 or 6 at night and you're tired. I understand that. But try to find that hour, 30 minutes to just engage with your kids, listen to their day, throw a ball with them. Last night we went to a movie. It's 100 something degrees here in St. George, so we went to a movie last night and just trying to be conscious that you always hear that statistic that before the age of 18, you'll spend 80% of your time with your kids. After the age of 18, you get 20%. So they're going to be gone and you're going to beg for them to come back for Christmas and birthdays and call you and spend time with you. At least I am. And so I'm trying to spend as much time with them as I can now. And then hopefully they'll want to come back around later. And that's my number one parenting tip is just be with them, be engaged, and spend that time with them. They love you. I saw a thing on Facebook the other day that said there was a video and it was asking parents if you could wish for anything. I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but if you could wish for anything, and they were wishing for cars and houses. And it says, if you could ask for one wish, what would it be? And it says, for my mom and dad to be around. And asked a bunch of kids. They just want you. They just want you. They don't care what car you drive. They don't care how big the house is. They don't care necessarily where they go on vacation. You're their world. And I love that. I love that. I laid in my bed last night with my 3-year-old and we scrolled looking at animals. We're going to Africa and he's coming. And we scrolled there and looked at animals in Africa for an hour. And he's naming them, zebra, hippo, whatever. And that's his happy place. That's what he wants. And that's going to go away. I know that. This chapter will close and he's going to go want to chase girls. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old in the house. And I said, hey, we're looking at African animals. Do you guys want to come lay in bed and look at them? They're like, no, we're good. It's already going. So take advantage of these windows that are going to close while you can. Okay. Let's see. What's the next one? Okay. Will M42 have a community like the Iron Council in the near future? So yeah, great question. Yes. So we are a partner. Ryan Mickler with Order of Man is a partner in this company, M42 Adventures, and he has the Iron Council, and we will have a community. Yes, we're working on it. We've been working on it for 6 months now, going on 7. Hopefully going to announce that here in the next month and a half. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a place where you can come, and we're building it. We're spending a lot of time, a lot of money on it, and it's going to be something that I would want to be a part of, where you can come and network and learn and engage. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited. Like I said, everybody who knows, who's been listening to this podcast knows that I'm doing M42 Adventures selfishly, right? So I want this for me, and this community is something that I'm building. There's going to be a lot of different aspects to it. I'll talk more about it. I'll probably do a whole episode on it in a month or so. But yes, there will be a community coming. So if you want to be a part of it, we'd love to have you. It's going to be free for probably 90 days is what we're talking about. I want to launch it and then have it be free for 3 months. Obviously, there's going to be a cost to it. We have a lot of expenses to run it, to build it. So it's not going to be a free thing, but we're going to have it be free for 90 days for people to get in there, test it out. It's not going to be free for the 90 days from when you sign up. It's going to be a window. So like September, October, November is what we're thinking. So if you sign up in, October, you'd get 30 days free. And then we will be charging for that. But it's going there. I guarantee the value in it. It's going to, if you come in and you engage and you be a part of it, it will change your life. And it's going to change mine. So I'm excited about that. Stay tuned. If you want to learn more about that, sign up for our M42 newsletter off our website. We'll be sending out information on that so you can jump in on that when it's ready and you guys can be a part of that. And the first 3 months, again, like I said, we're thinking 3 months will be free. So that's that. Okay, so the next question, let's see. So how do you first start to travel outside the US? Safety, budget, location, etc. Again, I kind of addressed this already in my earlier blurbs. But yeah, to first start out, first of all, I start following people who are doing it. Back then, I started 8 years ago. It wasn't quite as popular. There was like the bucket list family that we looked up to and kind of mirrored a lot of what they were doing. But now everybody's doing it, right? So there's probably even books written on it. I don't know. But how do you first start to travel? Find people that are doing it, follow them, ask them questions, and that's the number one way I would do it. The way I did it, I had kids. I had a little bit of money. I didn't sell everything. I sold 65% of my businesses, but I didn't sell my house. I didn't sell my cars. A lot of people sell everything and they jump in a van or I didn't want to do that. I didn't need to do that, thankfully. If I would have had to, I maybe would have. But so some of the questions you have to ask yourself personally are, what kind of travel do you want to do? Do you want to road trip the US in an RV? Do you want to road trip the US? So say, let's just use, for example, you want to road trip the US. I did that. And so I started researching, how do I want to road trip? Do I want to do an RV? Do I want to do a tent? Do I want to do Airbnbs? I chose Airbnbs. I looked up RVs. I didn't realize a lot of national parks don't take certain size RVs. They have to be a size. There's a size constraint. Plus you're paying for the site, which is common sense, but I didn't realize how much it was, 70 to $100 to park your RV to stay in it. And then your RV's getting, I just talked to a guy the other day who drove to Alaska and his RV got 4 miles to the gallon. And the trip cost him $4,000 in fuel, not counting all the parking, spots that he had to pay for and all that kind of stuff. So I chose to we took one of our vehicles, which was a small SUV. We put a bumper rack on it, so we could carry extra stuff because it was a family of 5 at the time. We had our little baby then. It was during COVID where we couldn't really go anywhere outside the US, so we decided to road trip the US. We went to 40 states and we stayed in Airbnbs. Okay, so the next question is, are you a hunting brand? I get this a lot. I understand it. A lot of what we've been pushing and saying and marketing has been hunting. We are not. We are an outdoor brand. So we're going to do everything outdoors. We're going to have mountain bike experiences. We're going to have a surfing experience in Costa Rica, sailing experiences. The reason we started with hunting is because I do enjoy hunting. I'm passionate about it. I had some connections for Africa, which was an easy one to put together, which is not an easy one to put together, but because of my contacts, it was easy, and that's one that I've always wanted to do. So we launched with Africa. It's not all hunting. We have 10 people going to Africa that are going for the orphanage, to give back, and a photo safari. So we are absolutely not a hunting brand. We do enjoy hunting. A lot of our experiences will be hunting. I am passionate about it, but we're going to have so many more experiences that are not hunting. So we're actually working on not a motocross, but a road bike experience. So anything outdoors, any type of outdoor experience is what we're looking at. So good question. I'm glad you asked that. Let's see. The next question. What experiences are you going to be doing next year? So, like I just said, next year we're going to be doing the events in New Harmony, which are a mix of everything. The experience in New Harmony has camping, uh, outdoor cooking, culinary cooking, UTVs, horses, fly fishing, archery, firearms. Am I missing any? Hiking. We're going to be doing some hikes near Zion National Park. So the events in New Harmony are basically a mix of all of our events in one location at my parents' 50-acre ranch, which is an amazing property. We did an event this year there. We had 33 people attend, and it was well received. So that's going to be, we're going to do a couple of those next year. Hawaii archery hunt we're going to be doing next year. We're going to continue the Africa hunt. We sold 21 out of 24 spots this year. We didn't completely sell it out, but that's amazing for our first year ever. I leave for that in 10 days with my, like I said, with my wife and kids. I am so excited. I cannot wait. It's going to be life-changing. I believe that. And I cannot wait for that one. And we've already set dates for next year. So we're going to be announcing those here pretty soon. And then Costa Rica. We're going to be doing a Costa Rica surfing experience. So those are guaranteed. We're also looking at maybe doing a UTV experience, just solely UTVs, where you come and you go for 3 or 4 days up in the, we'll set it all up and it'll be a big loop through the Utah mountains, we're thinking. And it will be all around UTVs because we got such a good reception to that at our New Harmony experience. And then a horse experience where you do the same thing but on horses. So you'll get a horse and you'll load it up with your gear and we'll go on. I'm excited about that one. I'm going to do that one with my 2 boys and we'll go ride horses for 4 days, 3 nights, just horses, and hop off, set up camp, cook our food. And that to me will be an amazing experience as well. So we're looking at maybe doing those 2. Again, it's, how well we do with the first ones, our reception. So please like, share, follow, all those things. Help us get the word out. We're working on ambassadors and stuff like that to start letting people know that we're here. But we're brand new. We're 5 months old. So we got big ambitions, but that's what we're starting to do. We're actually looking, in our business plan of doing like singles. I have a buddy who, like I was telling you, who's in California, who would love to meet like-minded people come up. So like a singles experience where we have some, 12 men and 12 women and you come up and mingle and do some of these cool experiences together. Family, fathers, sons, fathers, daughters, mothers, sons, mothers, daughters. So we got big plans if people will get on and support us and help us push this forward. We sincerely appreciate it and we're passionate about it. So that's what we're thinking for next year is those 4, maybe the UTV, maybe the horses added on. We're working on our next year schedule right now. And then we'll let you guys know. So again, sign up for the newsletter. Keep following us on social media. We'll be announcing all these things that we're going to be doing. We'd love to have you out. Okay. Here's the last question that I do have. So what or how do you maintain a work-life balance while achieving your goals? And how were you able to do this while traveling with your family? So how do you maintain a work-life balance while achieving your goals? That was difficult for me, honestly, to be very honest. If you've heard my story, if you haven't, go back to some, I don't know what episode it was, but if you go back and listen, I talk about my story and where I came from. But for 3 years, I didn't take a day off. So that obviously is going to have a huge impact on my work-family life balance. But I knew what I was doing it for. I knew that if, one of my favorite sayings is if I work today like no one else will, or if I live today like no one else will, tomorrow I can live like no one else can. And I'm proof of that, that that's possible. And so I knew what I was doing. I knew that I was sacrificing, but I was also investing in rental properties and businesses and in other investments that would allow me to have passive income for the rest of my life. So I did pay a price in the beginning. My wife didn't see me much. I missed my kids' first steps. I missed my kids' first words, things like that, that I just missed. And I did. And I understand I can't get that back. But at the same time now, We've been traveling for 7, 8 years together. I've spent more time with my kids in the last 7 years than most people will spend in a lifetime with theirs. We're going to Africa in 10 days together, and we're also going to Turkey. Going to stop in Florida for a few days. So, you know, I think if you're going through something where obviously we're in different chapters as well. My child was 0 to 3 when I was doing that. I knew that he wouldn't remember. I would remember, but I knew I would get it back. If I was missing baseball games or football games, probably wouldn't have been an option for me. I would have went to those games and I'd have figured that out. So, if you have younger kids, you got to kind of understand what your goals are, what you want in life. The one big mistake I think people make too is they work a lot and then they spend a lot and blow it. And if you're working out there and you're working 100 hours a week, 80 hours a week, and you're blowing it on stupid shit, then you're making a mistake in my mind. You shouldn't be trading your life and your time for stupid shit. So try to get that under control, take that money and put it towards investments that will allow you to start trading, to not trade your time for money. Start trading, your passive time will be earning yourself money. So that's kind of a loaded question. I would have to know the individual, what their goals are, what they're looking for, but um, you know, it's always going to be a battle for anybody. Now I'm working on M42 Adventures. I work quote unquote full time. Thankfully, a lot of my time is spent in Alaska, Hawaii, Africa at these experiences, New Harmony at these experiences. So a lot of my work is doing fun stuff, not building cabinets or putting in flooring like I used to do. Um, but yeah, that's you got to kind of look at your situation and decide, where you're at and what your goals are, and then make a decision on where you want to be and what you have to sacrifice to get there. But if you're smart and you work smart, you can trade that, or you can invest that and get out of that sooner, quicker, or eventually. So hopefully I answered that. How were you able to do this while traveling with your family? I didn't work. That's a big misconception. Everywhere I went, you run into influencers, you run into people who are doing podcasts or social media to try to pay for their travels, which good for them. I have no problem with that. Whatever you got to do to follow your dreams, good for you. But I didn't. I worked about 1 to 2 hours a month and checked. I still owned 38% of my 4 main businesses. And I would check on them every month, just go through the numbers, make sure the profit and loss is good, balance sheet looked good, things like that. If I saw a problem, I'd call them and run through it with them for an hour or two. But I didn't work much, hardly at all. And so it was pretty easy to balance that out. One of the rules I have now is when I get home, if you actually call my cell phone, it says, hey, this is Rick. If you leave a message, I'll call you back. If it's after 6 p.m. on a weekday or the weekend at all, my phone's turned off. So I'm very good about turning off my work and those obligations now. I remember laying there in bed or back in the day when my phone would ring and I'd be scared. Is it a credit or is it a cell? Is a cell that I have to answer? I've lived through all of that. I remember going to the mailbox, being afraid to open the mailbox, that it was going to be a debt collector or another bill that I couldn't pay. So I've lived through all that. I know what it's like. And I'm grateful now that I don't live that way. I turn off my phone. I don't take meetings that I don't want to take. I don't meet with people that I don't want to meet with. I don't have to do that anymore. And so that's one of the blessings of money. They say money doesn't buy happiness. And it doesn't. I'm not necessarily happy because of the money, but it does buy some peace of mind from those types of things that I used to be very stressed about and very, I had to have my phone on all the time. I felt like I remember answering my phone in the middle of the night because it'd be, my Mexico mail asking about a problem or something. And I had to answer it. I had to because I depended on that. And thankfully now I've put people in place, partners and employees in place that deal with that and handle that type of thing. And I don't have to. So it's been very easy to have that work-life balance now later on. Okay, well that's the episode. Those are the questions that I got. This will come out on Friday, and I hope that you enjoy it. I hope you got some value out of it. If there's keep sending your questions in, we'll do this again. So email me, DM me. Well, I got a few questions through chat on the website. So reach out to me. Again, I'm all ears. I want to help people. If you have a question, you think that maybe I could help you, I would love to do that. So thank you for listening. Again, please like, share, tell your friends if you like the podcast. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good day.